Technical KZ. In this tutorial, we are going to cover more in-depth techniques to accomplish specific jumps found in KZ maps. Comboing is the act of stringing together multiple jumps and maps in order to get a faster time. Although this is a simple concept, the execution is much harder in reality, and becoming a consistent comboer is what can make a huge difference in your skill level as a KZer. Try to get used to not stopping during your KZ runs and B-hopping simple jumps where you would otherwise stop, line up, and approach the jump with a simple air strafe. Let's take a look at some good combo examples. .380s. .380s is a term not only for the velocity speed cap and KZ timer, but of jumps that require a perfect 380 hop. They are also referred to as perfs. It's most frequently used for B-hop sections like those in BKZ Apricity and BKZ Underground Crypt v3. Remember when we talked about speed management in the B-hop video? This is where you're going to become an expert at it. A guy named Kuro discovered that if you have 380 units per second while B-hopping and hold crouch as you perform your next B-hop, you will either slow down to 85 units per second or maintain 380 units per second. The technique is called crouching. This is 100% consistent, and only one of two of those things will happen. Why is this useful? Well, it's the only known method of controlling the RNG of B-hopping. If you hit the perfect crouch B-hop, you'll have 380 units per second and have a great chance of accomplishing the next B-hop gap. If you hit 85 units per second, you'll have enough time to turn around and begin pre-speeding on the B-hop block again. It will take some getting used to releasing crouch and turning around when failing to hit the 380. With crouching, you can complete any B-hop section with perfect accuracy. Please note, however, that you get less height when B-hopping in a duck, so crouching is not the most viable tech for jumps such as a 320 block. Now, you can manage your B-hop speed and not screw up a very long string of B-hops due to the RNG of CSGO B-hopping. With practice, you'll learn to easily recognize when to turn around and when to strafe out of crouching. Let's look in depth at some of the B-hop in BKZ Apricity. Let's look in depth at a dramatic use of crouching in the BKZ Underground Crypt v3 infamous Headbanger B-hop section. As you can see, you can accomplish even this very hard section with laser accuracy utilizing crouching. Speaking of headbangers, let's talk about real headbangers. A headbanger jump is when you need to time your air strafing and crouching in order to pass under a surface to get to the next block. Let's check out the headbanger on KZ Synthesis V2. This is a relatively easy headbanger, and all you're doing is timing your air strafing so that when you crouch, you will just barely go under the surface of the ceiling and reach the block underneath. A not so common method for more easily timing your crouch is to bind your crouch button to your mouse. Personally, I have the crouch bind set to mouse 1, so when I approach a headbanger using my crouch bind, I can use the same button for jumping and crouching for the headbanger. It just makes things simpler and easier. Let's check out the headbanger on KZ Synhelp Final. Let's check out the infamous headbanger on BKZ Apricity. Rumors have it that someone died on this jump back in 2014. B-hop ups. This is when you need to go up to a higher surface while B-hopping that cannot be accomplished simply by crouching up. These types of jumps are most notably found on the maps KZ Gold Pitter V2 and KZ Feld Fast Run. These B-hops are more easily performed when approached directly after a perfect B-hop. As soon as you hit the block higher up, you only have a split second to hit your next B-hop. This is all timing and it's just something that needs to be felt to practice. Technical surfs. There are a few technical surfs that are important to know that share the basic concept of KZ, going up. Let's take a look at two surfs on KZ Get Good Final. You cannot simply ride up this surf by just jumping up it. You have to use technique. To begin, line up at a distance where you will reach 250 units per second running parallel to the surf ramp. As you approach the ramp, keep your crosshair parallel to the surf ramp and ride up it using only one key. I cannot stress this enough. You will only need to use A or D. When you're nearing the top of the ramp or losing all your speed, hold crouch to top out on the ramp. Let's take a look at the harder surf ramp in this map. Now we're going to look at two very technical surfs most notably located on KZ GFY Final. To approach this ramp, line up like you would on the surfs on Get Good. However, you're going to want to pre-strafe into the ramp, ride up it using one key, flick out of the ramp, and then strafe back. This is a very complicated move, so let's take a look at it in slower motion. This is a much easier ramp, but still very technical. When approaching this ramp, you're going to want to act as if you're pre-strafing, but only for the angle at which to ride up the tiny little ramp. Then, it's as simple as strafing out of it. Technical surfs are one of the harder concepts for KZers to grasp, but they are very important. As more maps implement these types of jumps, it's important to know how to perform them accurately. Ladders with blocks. There are only a select few maps you'll ever encounter these, but it's important to know how to do them. Let's take a look at two jumps on KZ GFY Final. You're going to want to think about these ladders as strafing sort of on the edge of the ladder or away from the block. There are multiple ways to approach these ladders, but the easiest is to ride them up near the edge of the ladder and facing away from the ladder as you near the block. This is one of the most technical ladders in KZ, and there are many ways to approach this. Some people try to use a TP bug, but that's simply not the easiest way to do it. First, line up parallel to the side of the ladder, then get as close as possible to the ladder to where you'll barely not hitting your head on the block if you jump up and down. Then, using only A and S, ride up the ladder and wiggle as you would in any air strafing movement. You should pass the block and with practice, learn to safely land on the surface past the ladder. Fall downs. There are two maps that utilize fall downs in a way that induces rage in people. KZ Synhelp Final and KZ Conrun MQ. It's a simple concept. You fall through a hole and use air strafing to avoid the surfaces beneath you. There are a few tips though that newer players never receive. A common question is, do I just run straight into the fall down or do I jump into it? Well, it's usually easier just to run straight into the fall down. It's easier to control and usually provides an easier time in avoiding the next platform beneath you. Also, you can utilize crouching to get underneath the first surface, so that you have more time to avoid the second surface. Just treat it like a headbanger. For example, let's take a look at the fall down on Send Help. Now, let's take a look at the fall down on Conrun. Jump stat techniques. This is just going to be some short mentions on tricks used to get better jump stats. They only apply to bunny hops, multi B hops, drop B hops, weird jumps, and count jumps. The first trick is that you can use the bind for all these jumps to gain more height and therefore distance. It's more or less a complete RNG grind to perform binded hops. The second trick is a technique founded by Plex. When performing a multi-B hop, if the last hop is done from a higher surface, the player will receive additional height that is not possible on flat ground. Wall strafing. This is one of the more unexplainable phenomenons in KZ and is usually not required, but can be utilized to your advantage in quite a few maps. The movement is much the same as surfing. For example, let's take a look at this jump on KZ Get Good Final. It's a pretty hard jump, and most people struggle to strafe out of it, especially with a block right on their left. I guess you just need to strafe 10 times, right? Wrong. Let's do it with wall strafing. To do so, just run towards the end of the platform like any other jump, make sure you're right next to the wall, and as soon as you leave the block, hold D and ride the wall. If you do this correctly, you will strafe alongside the wall and gain enough height and speed to reach the next block. That was easy. You can combine wall strafing with pre-strafing for even better results. Also, this is useful for reaching some high jumps. Pixel surfs. Pixel surfing is sort of a bug in KZ, and it exists mostly in older maps where it wasn't discovered. I will not cover the cause of this bug, but if you're a mapper wondering on why they occur, head over to the KZ Climb forums in the mapping section. Let's take a look at the pixel surf on BKZ Underground Crypt V3 that skips a hard B-hop section. Your approach to a pixel surf is the exact same as a wall strafe, except that you don't jump. Just run forward, and as soon as the ground ends, hold A or D depending on what side the pixel surf is on, and you should find yourself seemingly floating in air. Point your crosshair at a relatively parallel angle. Angle your crosshair a little bit away from the wall to go forward, and a little more towards the wall to go backwards. You will not find pixel surfs on every map, but they are used to skip hard or large portions of some maps. They will not always save you time, but they will definitely save you effort. An approach to technical KZ. I'm going to say something that should get stuck in your head as a KZer. There is always a technique. No matter how impossible a jump may seem, someone has done it, and there is a technique to perform that jump with accuracy. No matter how optimal the time you may believe a run is on a map, there is always a faster way. There is no end to the technicality of KZ, and you really have to study a map and practice all the movements to become better. You will become better. Welcome to KZ. Hop.
Holy shit.